Okay, Hare Krishna and welcome everyone once again. So, let me share my screen. We'll do Mangalacharan. Okay, let's start the prayers. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yema Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuda Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Sajivam Advaitam Sadhutam Varnasaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमि हरि प्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनाम पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे Krishna. So thanks for joining. I think so. Today we'll continue with chapter number 12. You can see my screen. Is it? Anyone,
Yes,
please?
Prabhuji.
Okay, I think there's a problem with your connection then because I hear breaking. Anyway, so let's see. So chapter 11, where Krishna explains about the Virata Rupa, the universal form, and then in chapter 11, Krishna actually concluded saying the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service and onto his personal form. See, remember the last verses, couple of verses from last chapter, where Krishna speaks about mat karma krita mat paramo mat bhakta sanghavarjita, where he says about work for me, consider me the supreme. In that way, also Krishna speaks about the ananya bhaktas, bhaktya tu ananya sakha aham evam vidho arjuna. So one by undivided devotional service can understand Krishna, right? That's what Krishna has told to Arjuna. That's how to understand Krishna. So by putting the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna, as he's done in chapter 11. In fact, if you see in almost every chapter, concludingly, Krishna has spoken this again and again. Like if you see chapter 6, the last verse, Yoginam api sarvesham, that speaks about Krishna. Even many where in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Like so, now this chapter is specifically named as devotional service, right? Or bhakti yoga, you can say. So the point here is, in the chapter Arjuna starts, there's 4 sections in this chapter. Arjuna starts with a question again, asking Krishna that what is uh, what is the better, or who is the best, the personalist or the impersonalist. So we know there are 2 different kinds of, there are processes to Krishna. Being talked about the personal, he is worshipping the personality of Krishna, and there are many who worship impersonal. So he asks, who is the best one? Krishna explains in some 2 to 7 verses. He again he profound the supremacy of Krishna Bhakti. Then from text 8 till text 12, Krishna speaks about the progressive stages of bhakti. Right? If you can do this, do this. If you cannot do, like there are different ways of worshiping Lord. And then in the last section, 13 to 20 verse, he says about the qualities that endear one to Lord Krishna. So it's a very small chapter, 20 verses, one of the small chapters in Bhagavad Gita. However, this is the ultimate goal of our life, to do devotional service. Right? Am I breaking or is it okay? Please.
You're not too bad now. It's a lot better
Okay.
now as compared to before.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. So I'm sharing my screen again. Let's start one by one verses. Okay. Text 1. Please repeat after me if it's possible. Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Vacha.
Vacha.
Evam
Evam
Satata
Satata
Tatata
Yaye.
Yuktaye.
Yuktaye.
Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Vacha.
Arjuna Vacha.
Evam Satata Yuktaye
Evam statata yuktaye.
Bhaktas
Bhaktas.
Bhaktas.
Swam
Tvam
Paryupasate
Paryupasate.
Bhaktas Swam Paryupasate
Bhaktas Tvam Paryupasate.
Ye
Ye
Aksharam
Shapi Aksharam
Avaktam
Avyaktam.
Ye Chapi Aksharam Avaktam
Ye Chapi Aksharam Avyaktam.
Tesham
Tesham
Ke
Ke
Yoga Vittama
Yoga
Avyaktam.
Tesham Ke Yoga Vittama.
Tesham Ke Yoga Vittama.
Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna
Arjuna
Vacha.
Vacha.
Evam Satata Yuktaye
Evam
Satata
Yuktaye.
Yuktaye.
Bhaktas Tvam Paryupasate
Bhaktas Tvam Paryupasate.
Paripasate.
Apyaksham Avaktam
Ye
Ye
Chapya Avyaktam.
Avyaktam.
Tesham Ke Yoga Vittama.
Tesham
Tesham
Te
Ke
Yoga
Yoga
Vittama.
Vittama.
So what do I want? It says Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna said, Evam thus Satata always Yukta engaged. Those who Bhaktaha devotees, Tham you Paripashate properly worship, ye those who cha also api aksharam beyond the senses, avaktam the unrested, tekam on who yoga vitamaha the most perfect in knowledge of yoga. So translation it says Arjuna inquired which are considered to be the more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifest. So he actually he's asking a question to Krishna that who is better? The one, if you remember earlier, Arjuna asked a question in previous chapters like one who is better, one who renounces or one who performs duty, right? And now again he's asking a question that Krishna, please tell me who is more perfect? One who is worshipping you in devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahma or Brahma Jyoti, which is manifested, which is better? And then there's a question being asked, and Krishna explains this in 8 verses, answering Arjuna. So there are different ways to worship Krishna, as we see. So yoga means what? Yoga is actually connecting to Krishna, isn't it? Yoga means to connect with Krishna. And if you try to connect with Krishna through your activities or work, it's called as karma or karma yoga. So if you perform karma yoga, become karma yogi. If you try to connect yourself with knowledge or jnana, it means you are performing jnana yoga, so we become jnana yogi. If we try to understand or connect ourselves with Krishna, with the God, by dhyana yoga, meditating on the plenary portion or expansion of Krishna's Paramatma within our heart, that is Ashtanga yogis does. So we become yogis, and it is basically Ashtanga yoga. Bhakti with all the limbs of devotional service, Saranam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padashevanam, Archanam, Darsam, all this, right? Chanting the holy name, reading Bhagavad Gita, associating with the devotees, going to with Krishna, then it becomes yoga. So different ways to connect with Krishna. However, here specifically two discrimination being made. What is one personalism and one is impersonalism. One who who act the form of Krishna, and one who denies the form of Krishna, saying that everything is coming from personal is or the intelligence action Krishna is coming from Krishna's body, that we will see going ahead. Right. So Prabhupada, so Prabhupada says that Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonalist, and the has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendent can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, classes, and who is the best among this is being asked by Arjuna. He is going to give his verdict, who is the best. So the personalist devotee engage himself with all energy in the service of God, and impersonalist himself, but not directly Krishna, meditation on the or unmanifest. Right. So Prabhupada writes a nice purport, as I think he summarizes about the second chapter. Krishna speaks about divinity, right? There's how what he is not a metal body, he's a spiritual spark, right? And in 7th chapter, he spoke about the divinity as being part and parcel of the supreme whole. So gradually, in chapter 2, Krishna explains about the living entity. In chapter 7, he says that living entity actually parcel, right? Again, in he says that anyone who thinks of Krishna at time of Krishna's body is at once transferred to the sky. And then chapter 6, Lord clearly says that from all these, anyone who thinks of himself or Krishna is considered the most perfect. So if you see Krishna has actually in essence is establishing that worshipping me directly is the best process, and that's bhakti yoga. So Prabhupada mentioned here that so in practically every conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization. However, though there are many yogis who worship impersonalism, asking questions so that we can clarity on our thought, what we do. So it's our choice. Even if giving all the to our says at the end that I have given you all the information, all the knowledge, all the jnana. Now it's your choice to decide what to do. So in a similar way, it's our choice what we want. So before moving ahead, we'll try to understand a bit about these two things, personalism and impersonalism, and then we'll see what Krishna says. So as discussed about the different types of, like when we connect ourselves with Krishna through our activities is yoga. When we connect ourselves with Krishna in knowledge or speculations, maybe it's Jnana Yoga. When we try to connect Krishna with as a Paramatma by meditation, it becomes the Dhyana Yogi. And then when we try to connect with Krishna in Bhakti Yoga or by performing the 9 limbs of Bhakti, it becomes the Bhakti Yoga. So ultimately, everyone is somehow there. If you think everyone is trying to connect with Krishna, that's the real goal. But the process is different, isn't it? One's trying to through karma, one's trying through jnana, one's trying through dhyana, and one's trying through bhakti. So ultimately, everyone's trying to connect with Krishna. That's the ultimate goal. But the way is different. So Prabhupada gives an analogy how to understand this point. Milk. We have 5 senses, right? A milk. Let's try to understand this philosophy. Milk with the different senses. So if I try to understand the milk by seeing it, I can understand, okay, it's a liquid substance, it's white, right? That's my understanding. If I see the milk, when it comes to hearing, I may hear, okay, there are, we can get some cow milk or buffalo milk or other types of milk, like ahimsa milk, this milk, or maybe you can have some flavored milk by adding some saffron or sugar or things. That different milk. So one through seeing, it's a liquid, it's a white substance, and through ear hearing about the qualities of the milk, right? It's maybe we touch the milk, we can say that it's hot milk or cold milk. So trying to understand the substance milk through our different senses, by looking at it, by hearing about the milk, by smelling. And we can understand, okay, the milk is not turned yet, or the milk looks to be very nice, aromatic. So it must be have some different use, maybe turmeric kind of things, right? So substance is same, but they're trying to understand from different, right? And then the best way to understand the milk or get benefit from the milk is to drink it. When we drink it, we can perceive everything, because we are drinking, we can understand it's hot or cold. We can understand it's sweet, it's saffron, or it's more sweet or flavor. We can get it even while drinking, right? Even you can smell the aroma while drinking. However, though we can see everything, we can see the milk, we can understand about the milk, we can check it's hot or cold, we smell the taste. However, these are a part, we are getting benefited. The real benefit of drinking the milk is to provide us some calcium and making us healthy and wealthy, right? So health is getting from the milk. So that is the main motto of drinking milk, to help nourishment from the milk. Just by looking at milk, just by seeing at milk, just by touching the milk, we are not getting any benefit. Definitely we are knowing about the milk, but the actual benefit is when we drink it, isn't it? And similarly, we understand Krishna's aspect, but not the complete. But when we follow the path of bhakti, we understand the whole essence, or try to understand Krishna himself as a person. There are 3 aspects to understand Krishna. The Bhagavatam explains, vadati tat tattvavidas jnanam tad tattvavidas jnanam taj I forgot the words. Just a second, I think. For says Brahmeti Paramadveti Bhagavan is Sate. Yes, Jnanam Tattva. Yes, I got it. So Jnanam Yaj Tattva Advayam. Vadanti Tat Tattva Vidas Tattva Jnanam Cha Tattva Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan Ityat. So the Tattva Vidas, those who are learned, right? The great acharyas, the sages, they see the substance, the real some tattva, or the absolute truth in three different ways, and they say that these three are actually the one. Only perception is different, but things are all one. What are those? Brahmeti, Brahman, or asking about impersonalism, that it seems completely effulgence. Then Paramatmeti, or Paramatma, who is in our heart, second level of understanding, and Bhagavan. So these three are actually the same. So how it came? It's Krishna himself, Bhagavan. But when Krishna expands into this mid world and the entities, he expands himself as Paramatma, sides within the divinity, Paramatma. He's the same, but he expanded as Paramatma. Right. Paramatma, again, the effulgence what we see, Brahman, that is actually it is coming out from the body of the Lord. So three are the effects: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Okay, let's see next part, second verse from. Right. Is that makes sense as of now before we continue, because it's very, very important concept and very important chapter to be understood. Yeah. So that Prabhupada mentions here. Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna, even in the preparation of commentaries of Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people and to the impersonal Brahmaji, to meditate on the impersonal form of absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of senses and is so. We'll see in text 4, Krishna explains about the qualities of impersonal Brahman as well. So the qualities of Brahma Jyoti in next verses, in the verse number 3 and 4. Let's see text number 2. So text 2, after hearing the question from Arjuna, so Prabhupada also makes mention that this important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between impersonal and personal conception of the absolute truth, right? Which already we have tried to understood as of now. One second. Let's see text 2. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan
Maya Vesha
Maya Vesha
Mano
Mano
Yemam.
Yemam.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan
Maya Vesha Mano Yemam
Maya Vesha Mano Yemam
Nitya
Nitya
Yukta
Yukta
Upashate.
Upasate. नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया
श्रद्धया परयोपेतास्
श्रद्धया परयोपेतास्ते में
युक्त
युक्ता तमामतः
मे युक्त तमामताः।
में युक्ततमामतः।
श्री भगवान उवाच
श्रीभगवानुवाच
मय्यावेश्य मनो ये माम्
मय्यावेश्य मनो ये माम्
नित्ययुक्ता उपासते
नित्ययुक्ता उपासते
श्रद्धया परयोपेतास्ते
श्रद्धया परयोपेतास्ते
मे युक्त तमामताः।
में युक्ततमामताः।
So Krishna is saying Tattamamata Matha. What is this? Let's see. Sri Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My upon me, Aveshya, fixing Manaha, mind, ye, those who Mam, me, Nitya, always, you are engaged, Tate, worship, Shraddhaya, with faith, Paraya, Upet, and word, may by me yuktatmaha, most yoga mataha are considered. What is saying? Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their mind on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great transcendental faith are considered by me the most perfect. One line reply to Arjuna, beginning conclusion. However, Krishna explains it more. But here he completely clearly says his verdict that those who fix their mind, not only fixing their mind on a personal form, but they are actually also engaged in worshipping me. So not only fixing the minds on Krishna's form, it's actually an engagement in devotional service of worshipping Krishna with great and transcendent faith, not just faith. What faith it is? It's a great and transcendental faith, and they are considered to be the most perfect. So it means clearly Krishna is saying here that anyone who fixes his mind to my personal form, Krishna says is Maya Avesha. He's not saying, he's clearly saying about that me. Me means what? Person, it's not impersonal, isn't it? Krishna is clearly speaking about that anyone who with engaging themselves in worship me with faith, that is transcendental faith, is the most perfected yogi. Krishna already spoke this actually. If you see in chapter 6, verse 47, Krishna already says it that yogi nam api sarvesham madgatantaratmana श्रद्धावान bhajate yo mam same yuktatamataha. Right. So that is already being spoken, but Krishna has spoken it again as well. That anyone who fixes, I mean, there Krishna speaks about the who is the topmost yogi, but here he speaks more about how he performs that yogi. He fixes his mind on my personal form. He engages in worshipping me, and how with great transcendental faith. So he has complete faith on Krishna. He is worshipping Krishna with devotional services, and he is fixing his mind on the personal form of the Lord. It's personal form, it's not impersonal. Right. So, and he is considered the perfect. Right. So, purpose. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly said that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one in such consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, and sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna. Sometimes he goes to the temple or the DJ. Whatever he does not he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full of samadhi. So that is a perfect stage of pure devotional service, right? Where the supremacy is being clearly mentioned by Krishna that worshipping the personal form is the best among these two, personalist and impersonalist, right? Okay, let's try to go through these two more verses. I'm not sure if we will complete it, but let's start it. Meanwhile, anyone have any questions or you move ahead? Okay, so let's see. So these two verses explains about the people who worship personal Brahman and the destination. Right? It's how it is. Let's see. Let's repeat it. The verses. Text 3 and text 4. Ye te
ये ते
ye tava
ये त्वा
ye tava aksharam
अक्षरम्
anirdeshyam
अनिर्देश्यम्
ye te aksharam anirdeshyam
ये त्वक्षरमनिर्देश्यम्
avaktam.
अव्यक्तम्
Some yeah, let me read out the ये त्वाक्षरम् अन्वेष्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमचिन्त्यं च कुटस्थम् अचलं ध्रुवम् सन्नियामेन्द्रियं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति माम् एव सर्वभूतहिते रता. Says ye those who to but aksharam, that which is beyond the perception of the senses, anirdeshyam, indefinite, avaktam, unmanifested, paryupasate, completely engaged in worshipping, sarvatragam, waiting, achintam, inconceivable, also kutatham, unchanging, achalam, immovable, dhruvam, fixed, sanniyamya, controlling, indriyagramam, all the senses, sarvatra, everywhere, samabuddhaya, equally disposed, they prapnuvanti, achieve, mam, me, eva, certainly, sarvabhute, welfare of all living entities, rataha, engaged. So here in the text third, the quality of this impersonal Brahman described. Let's see what those. So, but which lies beyond the perception of the senses, which is actually beyond the perception of our senses, the all pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses, being equally disposed to everyone, such person engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. So these are the qualities. It is what is unmanifested, right? Which is beyond our sense perception, and who is infinite, as all pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable. These are the eight uh, qualities of impersonal Brahman, right? However, those who worship this, how they worship, they control their senses. Those who worship the impersonal Brahman, what do? They control their various senses, and they are actually very equally disposed to everyone. They are well, no, I mean, well wisher of everyone, of all the living being. And such person, they achieve me. So when Krishna said they achieve me, so it's what they achieve. They achieve the impersonal Brahman stage, the second, the first stage, right? When we discussed about Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwan, Sabdati, the three aspect of Supreme Personality of Godhead, though like we understand, like understanding the milk through our senses, about hearing, okay, the milk is, is turmeric milk, or saffron milk is sweet milk, right? That, so then they got the conception about Supreme, but the one who drinks the milk, he get the most benefit. So these personalities, the worshipper of unmanifested form, which is all pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, and immovable, they, by controlling their senses, they get Krishna, that impersonal Brahman. It's not a Bhagavan conception, because within Bhagavan conception itself, right? So what they believe, they get. So fifth verse is speaks about the path, how this path, difficult path is. Let's try to read something from Prophet, and then we'll continue text 5 next week. To those who do not directly worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal, Sri Krishna. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. No, there's a verse, Krishna already spoke about this. Bahunam Jarmanam and Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudevam Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlava. So this will come again in next verse, actually, where Krishna speaks about how difficult it is. But Krishna has spoken earlier this verse, where he says this process of indirect worship, what happens? Bahunam Janmanamante. They worship for many births through their wisdom, right? Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate, and Vasudevam Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So when they go through the birth and birth to come to the point that Krishna is the absolute truth, and that person, this kind of people are very rare, right? So these people, they worship impersonal Brahman, but after many birth times to come to the point of Vasudeva is all, and then they get the next destination. So when a person comes to the full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Sri Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise there is no perfect realization. It's basically somehow or other this process by which they can come to our Krishna. So often there is much finances involved before one fully surrender unto him, isn't it? So in order to perceive the super within the individual soul, one has to see the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. So the yogis, actually the yogis, they meditate for lives after lives, and then they come to point of Krishna as Bhagavan realization, Brahma form. So then only one come to understand that Supreme Soul is present everywhere. So realizing this, one envies no living entities, because they understand that actually Krishna is there in every living heart, every living being. So they see no difference between a man an animal because he sees soul, not the body. Body is basically just an outer covering. It's nothing that more, right? We'll stop here and we'll continue from text 5 the next week. I'm not rushing for this chapter. Anyway, we are going very slow for all the chapters. We are just trying to cover 3 or 4 verses every week. Anyone have any quick questions or thoughts or comment? Please feel free to share, add. Otherwise, we'll join next week and continue from text 5, which I wanted to cover today, but we'll do it next week. Because this ends one section. Okay. If there is no question, then you can stop. Gita ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare